Hi, it's Gene, retired in Mexico, and I'm here with my special guest, Professor Gumbo from Phoenix, Arizona. We're real excited to bring to you today our countdown of our top 10 albums of 1978. That's right, 78. So both of us were in college. We knew each other. We're high school friends, and we're catching up on where we're at with music today. As for this channel, you can support me on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon. I got a bunch of social media contacts. Instagram, if I didn't say that already. And so engagement's always appreciated. We like your comments on here. We're going to count down our top 10. We've been taking turns. I'm going to go first on this one. And when we do the final year, the professor will go last. And I just checked in with the professor. He does say he's got a migraine, but he's going to push through this. So hopefully you can be your usual jovial self because you always crack me up. And before we get started, I like to do a little context for the year 78. I think I can go through this pretty fast, but it was the first global positioning satellite, for short, GPS. We use that term GPS so much that we forget what it means, but Rockwell launched the first GPS satellite, which is redundant, global positioning satellite. Director Roman Polanski skipped bail and fled to France. He was accused of having a dalliance, well, more than a dalliance, well, you can read up on it, but let's just say it was forced and underage. On TV, Dallas debuted. Now, I'm going to confess, I never saw a single episode of Dallas. Don't know anything about it except it was Larry Hagman in a cowboy hat. But it was huge, right, Jim?
Right, right. Yeah. Um, it was the one of the first evening soap operas.
Exactly. The comic strip Garfield debuted. Yeah, seems like it's been around forever, but no. One thing that happened in 78 was the first Unabomber attack. And boy, everybody wanted to know about the Unabomber. And I still make jokes about you shouldn't live alone in a cabin in Montana. Um, Here's a big story. More than 900 people died in Guyana in a Jim Jones led mass
Mm.
murder suicide. You remember that, drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever it was?
That
Not
was not funny.
metaphorically. What's that?
I think that was not funny, and I think that's where the drinking the Kool-Aid became a saying.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it was used before then as a pejorative.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. And there was a cult. So if you don't know about it, you can look it up. In politics, couple big things. One was peaceful, one was not. Camp David Accords began, and agreements were soon signed. So we're talking about the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of Egypt, and the President of the United States all meeting to get peace between Egypt and Israel. Guess what? That's still happening. You don't hear about wars between Egypt and Israel. On the other hand, the Iranian Revolution was in full swing. And right at the beginning of 79, like the first 10 days or something, 79, the Shah of Iran was toppled. So there was a lot of protests in the street. Deaths in music included Keith Moon of The Who, Terry Kath of Chicago, Sandy Denny, best known for Fairport Convention, Chris Bell from Big Star, and Maybelle Carter from the Carter family. And in Phoenix news, this was a big story where the professor and I grew up, was actor Bob Crane from Hogan's Heroes was bludgeoned to death in Scottsdale. Big story, remember?
Yeah, yeah, it's sorted.
Yeah,
Uh,
that never really was properly solved. Top films included Grease, Superman, National Lampoon's Animal House, and The Deer Hunter. Okay, I kept that one nice and short. 79 is going to be different because a lot of things happen in 79, but I just like to provide a little context. So, as mentioned, I'm going to go first. This is a combination of objectivity and subjectivity. And guess what, Professor? I am back down to five honorable mentions.
All right. Yeah.
I had two in 1970, and then I started having more than five. But this year I have exactly 15 albums on here. And I'm going to say, and by the way, we're going to pick two songs from every album, and we're doing a Spotify playlist. And you can go to the Spotify playlist. A lot of people aren't doing that, but it's really good,
It
right?
really is. You know, I I,
We've
I
been,
checked out the 77 last night, and it seemed like some things were missing, but especially from down near like my number two and my number one, but then they were there this morning. So
oh yeah, I was still working on that playlist and finished it this morning. As we say here in Mexico, exactamente. Um, so this was a tough list, and I'm going to just say something real quick to you, Professor, which I think, last year you were talking about 1977 when we did that. We just uploaded that this week, um, or we're about to. And it was real gene core. You were talking about that. Pretty predictable. I think this year is a little less gene core, maybe a couple twists. And the other thing I want to say quickly about this year is I've got some honorable mentions that really could just easily be replaced with 10, 9, 8, and maybe even 7. It's real nip and tuck and real close on a different, if I did this last month or the next month, I might have a slightly different top 10. But anyway, I digress. Number 10, I am going to go with somebody we both like, and that is Lou Reed. Going to
hmm,
go with Street Hassle. Interesting album. It was considered the first monaural recording. I kind of like it in spite of that. It's got kind of a weird production. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure that I'm totally in love with the sound, but this is uh this is true Lou Reed. And I'm going to tell you there's some albums on this list, at least two or three. No, four. I'd say four albums in my top 10 that have political correctness issues today. One album even has a song that's been omitted or, grayed out on Spotify. So there's things on here by Lou Reed that are not considered politically correct. So I can't say that this album is aged well, but I don't care. I like it anyway. It's Lou Reed being Lou Reed, being very New York, being very out there. Street Hassle's a great album. And I don't know, it's just how do I describe it? It's got a string quartet on the title track, and there's one track that's live, but probably the most politically incorrect song on the album is I Want to Be Black. I still
that's a
like
real.
that song. But yeah, it's not aged very well, but I still like it. I think I still like it because I liked it back in the day, you know. But yeah, it's got some lyrics I am not going to discuss on this channel, and I'm not going to pick it as one of my two favorite songs because I don't want to put it on the playlist, even though I personally like it. But yeah, it's Lou being Lou. Lou sometimes is just a provocateur. You know what I mean? So my songs on here are Dirt. Dirt is a great song about, I think, a manager, but I'm not sure. But it has lines like they'd eat shit and say it tasted good if there was some money in it for them. It's sort of positively 4th Street filtered through even more of a New York lens because Dylan was kind of New York too. So Lou Reed was influenced by Bob Dylan, not as powerfully as some other musicians, but it's there. And Dirt's kind of one of those diss songs. It's one of the greatest. And then the title track, Street Hassle, which has the string quartet, which has a little motif that it plays all the way through. And then it even features some narration by Bruce Springsteen. And it's basically a song about a drug overdose and finding a woman dead and what are we going to do with her? Yeah, it's pretty dark, but I like it. Lou Reed Street Hassle.
Okay, yeah, a very powerful album and recorded around the same, just probably a little after Cindy and I saw him in concert on the Legendary Hearts tour. Um, okay, my number 10 is a prog album that is highly regarded in prog circles, but otherwise not as remembered by mainstream audiences. And that is the band UK with their um, first album, UK. This is John Wetton and Bill Bruford, both from recently from the last incarnation of King Crimson at the time. Bill Bruford on drums and John Wetton on bass and vocals. Eddie Jobson from uh, formerly of Roxy Music and Frank Zappa and some other bands on keyboards and violin, and Alan Holdsworth guitar, uh, great jazz rock, prog jazz rock guitarist. And this is it, if more than anything, it's like if you were to replace Robert Fripp with Alan Holdsworth, that's what they would sound like. And John Wetton's voice is in fine form. All of them write, although Wetton does nearly all the lyrics. But the opening, there I was going to say I was gonna pick two tracks. I was gonna pick the last track, Mental Medication, but the first three tracks they're a suite and they all tie together. And so I'm just going to go with those three songs. It's going to violate the two song thing, but they're really, I always think of them as one song. And that's In the Dead of Night, By the Light of Day, and Presto Vivace and Reprise, which is a reprise of In the Dead of Night. And all four of the members really shine on this one. And I felt really lucky because at a small club in Tempe, um, I was able to see these guys on this tour. Holdsworth was to quit after the first album, and they were to become a trio that was more Emerson, Lake, and Palmerish. But this one is definitely of the three albums that they made. I think this is their strongest one. So UK, In the Dead of Night, By the Light of Day, Presto Vivace, and Reprise.
I agree with that. That was at Dooley's and we were there together.
Right, that's right. You were there too, and we were close too.
And they were, yeah, and they were incredible. So Alan Holdsworth, rest in peace, and John Wetton, rest in peace. Only half that band is still alive. But to see Holdsworth, there's a lot of people who would be jealous. He's a highly revered guitarist. Um, yeah, these guys were great. And I had not seen, the only one I've seen outside that band is Bruford with the reformed King Crimsons. So I've seen Bruford 3 times, but I never saw any of those other guys ever again. And that we saw him in '78 on this tour.
And I saw them the next year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, they opened for Jethro Tull, and they were ungodly loud. I mean, ear ear shattering loud, um, too loud actually, but they were really good. But again, the it was almost laughable. Poor Eddie Jobson. I mean, young guy at the time, and he was wearing tight leather pants and basically had his hair in a Keith Emerson shag and was doing his best Keith Emerson impersonation. And but they were good, but it wasn't the same as the band with Holdsworth, and it wasn't it wasn't Bill Bruford either. It was who took over on drums.
Was the Bosio?
Yeah, 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 Terry Bozzio. So it was really a
Bosio,
different
yeah.
band, but um,
Wow.
but it was John Wetton and um, Eddie Jobson.
Yeah, it was a great show. And by the way, I'm going to, in one of my top 10 albums, I will also technically have three tracks. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'll explain later. It'll make sense. It's kind of the same thing you're talking about, which is the songs just go into each other. All right, my number nine, which I think you'll only be surprised that it made my top 10. You know I like this album. It's a live album that may or may not be a real live album because Tony Visconti said it was 75% studio, and then everyone argued with him, said he was wrong. It was no more than 25% studio, but it's definitely an embellished album that's not a true live document. We talked about how Van Morrison famously made a live album that he just left it alone, warts and all. This is Thin Lizzy's Live and Dangerous, which is probably my favorite Thin Lizzy album, right there with Jailbreak. And it sounds great, but we don't really know how much of it was embellished. But I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? It only matters if I like the album. Some of the audience sound, I will say, some of the audience sounds a little funneled in or piped in by Visconti because he admitted to doing that. And it does sound a little bit fake at times. You listen to an album like Frampton Comes Alive, and you can just tell that the audience is a true recording from that concert. That there's nothing about, hi, Wendell, there's nothing about it that's fake. Yeah, that might detract from this album slightly, but it's a great album. You introduced me to it, I remember, and Live and Dangerous is a great place to start if you don't know much about Thin Lizzy. I can say start here because it acts as a little bit like a greatest hits album. For example, it has The Rocker, which is an earlier song that I really like. But for my two tracks, I'm going to go with two songs that I read were always done in concert together after this recording because people just got used to hearing the cowboy song and the boys are back in town together because they go from one right into the other. They just segue right into it and do it like a medley. And then the crowd was like, we want that. And they just did it that way for the rest of their career. So the cowboy song and the boys are back in town from Live and Dangerous, a questionable live album, but great nonetheless.
I agree. I do agree. Yes, it's a band I really like, and so I'm glad you put that on there. All right, my number nine is my one of two favorite artists, and is Van Morrison. And as if those of you that are following Gene on his uh, videos know, we did quite a bit of stuff with Van Morrison. That's how we actually got started. Um, and his 1978 album Wavelength. Um, Van had been Van had been on a streak of incredible albums, and all the way up through um, his live album "It's Too Late to Stop Now" and "Vie d'en Fleece," and then he just kind of was unhappy with what he was doing. He started all sorts of different projects. And on his The Philosopher's Stone, you can get a lot of those tracks. And some of them, I mean, just like Bob Dylan kept some of his best stuff aside, so did Van. But, you know, a lot of people were thinking, well, Van's not doing commercial stuff anymore. And then he comes out with the album Wavelength. And is it a perfect album? No, and here's why. Um, Great songs, great singing, but almost every Van Morrison album, in my opinion, from Astral Weeks forward, is Van doesn't follow any contemporary trends. Wavelength sounds late 70s, largely because of the synthesizers that are played by was it
Peter Barden? Peter Barden?
Peter Bardens, yes, from who was with him with Van in them, and then was on the tour with him, and it's a very late 70s synthesizer sound, and it does it date the album somewhat. It dates the sound. That doesn't really make it bad, but this is why it's number nine as opposed to number two. Okay. Um, and yet has a couple really, really great songs on it. The title track, Wavelength, is a Van Morrison classic with Van starting in a falsetto and then it just starts rocking and it's a really galloping rocker. And because it's so good as what it is, I didn't put the other rocker, which opens the album, and that's Kingdom Hall. Instead, I'm choosing the closing track, Take It Where You Find It, that has some great Van singing, some great lyrics, and it's an anthemic ballad. And when he says, I'm gonna walk down the street until I see my shining light. And it's like, oh yeah, Van, you haven't sung like that in a while. So um, Wavelength, everybody's heard the song Wavelength if you're into Van Morrison at all. Take It Where You Find It is more of a deep track. He hardly ever recorded it live, but it's a great song. So Van Morrison, Wavelength with Wavelength, and Take It Where You Find It.
Those are probably my two favorite songs from that album. Yeah,
Oh,
great,
good. I'm glad
great
to hear
pick.
that.
Um, yeah, so I concur with that. Yeah, good description of that album. My number eight. Yeah, I told you it was going to be a little less Gene core than you're used to, because I started with Street Hassle and then with the Thin Lizzy Live and Dangerous. And are you a little surprised so far?
Yeah, I am. I wouldn't have guessed those as my first guesses for you.
So I don't think you're going to guess number eight by a long shot. And I don't even know if you've heard this album. I don't even know if you've ever listened to it. We were talking about great breakup albums, like you were mentioning the Peter Hamill Over, and we were talking about Fleetwood Mac's Rumors. Well, here is one of the starkest and most painful breakup albums ever recorded. Marvin Gaye, Here, My
Oh,
Dear. Have you ever listened to that album?
I have. Yes, yes. It took me a while. I'd read a lot about it, but yeah, it's a
It's a double.
it's a powerful album.
So, for those watching, the title comes from the fact that he was in a divorce proceeding with Anna Gordy, which was Berry Gordy, the founder of Motown's sister, I believe.
That's right.
And so they were having a really bitter divorce. And the judge ruled that she would get a high percentage of the proceeds from his next record. Okay, more than half. I don't know what the figure was, but he was to make this album and give away most of his royalties to her. So he decides to make an album about them. And he calls it Here, My Dear. It is one of the most, and he says on the album, he goes, Hey, I'm not angry. He has a song called Anger on the
Anger.
album. Yeah, I'm not angry, but Here, My Dear, and here's a song called Anger. I think this album's incredible. And when I listen to it, it's like being a fly on the wall, you know? It's very voyeuristic. And yeah, I love that. Full of dysfunction. Um, it took a while to grow on me, and I didn't listen to it when it came out. I discovered it years later, but it just keeps growing on me. And I think it is wickedly, how do I want to describe it? It is wickedly voyeuristic and revenge and vengeful. And yet it's full of spirituality too. I mean, he's still very Christian and he's singing a lot of songs about forgiveness and I wish you well and all this kind of thing. But then you can kind of feel the resentment bubbling under. And so it's really a complex emotional album and I love it. And the songs that I'm going to pick, and one of them, by the way, has nothing to do with the divorce. It's just a great song. But I'm going to go with When Did You Stop Loving Me? When Did I Stop Loving You? It's a great song. Candidly honest. You know, he has these lyrics about, he has lyrics in here where he says, when you said, you know, till death do us part and forever and that kind of thing, and then you didn't uphold your wedding vows, you lied to God. Yeah, that's what Marvin Gaye says on this album. I don't remember if it's this particular song or not, but wow, those are heavy lyrics. But then he has another song, has nothing to do with the divorce. It's called A Funky Space Reincarnation. And that is a really fun song. So, when did you stop loving me? When did I stop loving you? A Funky Space Reincarnation. Here, my dear Marvin Gaye.
Good choice. And I never would have expected that. You really surprised me with that one. Okay, well, my next one's not surprising. Who are you? Who? The last Who album with the all four members intact before the unfortunate, tragic death of Keith Moon, who, in my opinion, if I had to choose one person in rock and roll who exemplified the spirit of rock and roll, it was Keith Moon. Okay. And I was kind of devastated when he died. And, you know, within a couple of years of each other, Keith Moon and John Bonham both died. And Bonham's death didn't affect me as much. I would now because I'm much more of a Zeppelin fan than I was at the time. But I was a huge Who fan. And um, I think part of the tragedy is that Moon was actually, he was reforming from his drug use. And then he went out to a party, he drank an awful lot, and he overdosed on the drug that was supposed to help control his alcoholism. And so, you know, he tragically died. Is this the best Who album? No, but it's a great Who album. And it's certainly better than the attempts that they made to follow it. After this album, I think it shook Pete Townsend to the point where he started looking inward for his songs. And it's not that Roger Daltrey quit being a great singer, he didn't. It's just that Roger Daltrey was not able to sing Pete Townsend's lyrics the way that he once had. Townsend's lyrics became much more personal, and the couple albums that followed this could have easily been Townsend solo albums, you know, rather than Who albums. Um, Another thing that's interesting about the album, and you don't really pick up on it when you first listen to it, but it has more John Entwistle songs than any other Who album. I think it's three or four John Entwistle songs, and they're really good too. Um, Trick of the Light is excellent, and I uh, I feel bad that I didn't choose one of those, but since I'm limiting it to two, obviously there's Who Are You, which was used for what was there's a cop show that was I can't think of the name of what, but there was a cop show on TV that used Who Are You? But what's really cool about it is, and I remember hearing it on the radio as I was driving to ASU at the time, and it's one of the few songs that got away with having the word fuck in it. When Daltrey sings, "Who the fuck are you?" And they don't cut that out. And if they did, it would be a lesser song. But the song is based on an event that happened to Pete Townsend, which was life changing in itself, not just the death of Keith Moon. And that was Townsend was really, really drinking heavily at the time, and he was hanging out with at a bar with some of the members of the Sex Pistols, and and he thought they were cool, but he also thought they were pretentious, and he thought they were too. And he saw through them. He saw through the filthy lucre thing, and he had just gotten a big royalty check, and he just tore it up right there in front of them and walked out. And then, totally plastered, he fell down in the gutter in London. And he woke up with a cop poking him, saying, "I know who you are. I'm not going to take you in if you can just get up and walk home." And that's
Yeah.
what what the song is about. I mean, it was, for people who are in AA, they talk about, hitting the bottom, right? Totally bottoming out. This is when Townsend bottomed out. Um, and so it's a great song. The other song is just a great rocker, and it's also snide because 1978 was the year when disco was in full swing. And so Townsend writes a song called Sister Disco about how disco was the sister of rock. But it's just again, Roger Daltrey, great vocals on it, and great lyrics by Townsend. So, um, who
That's
are
my
you?
Travolta. That's my
Oh,
Travolta.
oh, okay, okay. Uh, so who are you with Who Are You and Sister Disco?
All right, great. Yeah, so far, no concurrence at all. We haven't picked any of the same albums. We'll see if that continues. I imagine that we'll agree on something. So my number seven, okay, maybe this is the third live album by this group. We've already had two live albums by them on other years' lists. I'm going to go with Bob Marley and the Wailers, Babylon by Bus, recorded in Paris, I believe. And it's, yeah, I don't know if it's as good as live or at the Roxy, but still a damn good live album. I used to dismiss it years ago, but yeah, I've really come to like this. It's got a good song selection. Now, normally I would pick the song War because it's doubled up with so much trouble in the world, and I think it might be the highlight from the album. However, I wasn't thinking ahead, and I picked War when we did the 1976 playlist. You might remember that, the
Yes.
Rastaman Vibration album. I went with Crazy Baldhead and War. So rather than go back and doctor that playlist, I just picked two different songs on here. Um, some of them have really different treatments, and one is Exodus, which has never been my favorite Bob Marley song. But man, does he sing the hell out of this song. And the band is jamming and playing some guitar, and there's some drum fills and almost solos, kind of between drum fills and solos. And the crowd's going crazy when the Barrett brothers are playing that little part, and he just really sends Exodus home. I like that. And then another song that I like, I could have gone with the closer, Jammin', because that's really good, but I'm going to go with Rebel Music, 3 O'Clock Roadblock.
Mm.
A nice song about being stopped by the police for curfew violations. And I've always liked that song because of a mispronunciation. Do you know what it is? He
No,
says, "Hey, Mr. Police Officer, I don't have my birth certificate. Certificate." And he
certificate.
always mispronounces that, and I love it. My birth certificate. And
Certificate.
it just is a little thing about the song that I like. So yeah, Babylon by Bus, Bob Marley and the Wailers.
You and I both really dig a lot of live Bob Marley, don't we?
Yeah.
But there's something. Bob Marley is one of those artists, and Van Morrison immediately comes to mind, that just, he transcended when he was live. He would take great songs from studio albums, and there was a spirit to his live stuff that just was really powerful. All right, my number seven. This may surprise you, it may not. You know that I'm a big fan of Paul Weller and the Jam. And this
Mhm.
is probably my favorite Jam album, and that is All Mod Cons. And I have it on a twofer of uh, this is the modern world and All Mod Cons, but I'm just going to go with the All Mod Cons. Um, it has my absolute favorite Jam song, maybe not my favorite Paul Weller song, but my favorite Jam song, and that is Down in the Tube Station at Midnight, which, I never get tired of this song. It's a harrowing song about um, a um, a Pakistani immigrant to England going home with some curry to his family, and he gets either the crap beat out of him or killed. The idea is that he's dying at the end of it, and it down in the tube station at midnight. And Paul Weller has always been a very political person, and this was during a time when England was, with the it was getting very reactionary, conservative, and um, it's an angry song, but can a song be angry and beautiful at the same time? Yeah, I think it can. So Down in the Tube Station at Midnight. And the other song is also another angry song. Come to think of it, this is probably, um, if not Paul Weller's most angry album, the Jam's most angry album, Mr. Clean. I love the song Mr. Clean. I love that. I always go, yes, when I hear the line, I hate you and your wife, and given a chance, I'll fuck up your life. And
That's on
Mr. Clean,
Mr. Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Clean, yeah. He's and this is the other thing about this album is the songs, they're not so much punkish as they're creating scenarios, stories, characters. Why? Because one of Weller's biggest influences was Ray Davies, and
Yeah.
and on that album you have David Watts, the
Yeah.
Kinks song, a cover of that. But it's Paul Weller getting into social justice via the Kinks, and that is All Mod Cons by the Jam.
It's a great album. I like your two picks. Something I was thinking of, though, I could be wrong about this because I agree with your assessment 100%. Totally inspired by Ray Davies. I think Dave Davies wrote David Watts,
Mm,
but I'm
I
not
think you might.
sure about that. We'd have to look that up. But that's okay. I mean, it's still the Kinks, it's still the Davies brothers. And I'm trying to think who wrote David Watts. Yeah, it might have been Dave Davies, but
My my
unless
Windows
I'm
Media
just getting,
my Windows Media Player says Ray Davies is composer, but that doesn't mean that's what it was.
yeah, well, it probably is. And I might be getting confused on the word David. Dave. Dave Davies and David Watts. I might just
Uh-huh.
be confusing that in my mind, but that's a great cover on that album, and it
It
fits
really
right
is.
in with the themes of the songs.
I almost chose that, but I wanted to put Mr. Clean in there.
I like that pick a lot. My number six now. I'm on number six already. Man, we're breezing through this. So number six for me is "Darkness on the Edge of Town," Bruce
Mm-hmm.
Springsteen. I don't know if it's a perfect album. Maybe a song like "Factory," which is a good song, but maybe my least favorite. There's one or two songs on here might be less than stellar, but man, it's a great album. I love the production. It's interesting because John Landau later, the next couple of years, would produce The River, and The River sounds really bright to me. I don't like the production on it at all. It just sounds trebly and bright. And when I listen to this album, Darkness on the Edge of the Town, it's got a lot more kick from the rhythm section, and I much prefer his production on here. Great set of songs. Like I say, maybe less than perfect, but a damn good album. And, he hadn't put out an album in 3 years because of a lawsuit. So Born to Run to Darkness was 3 years, 75 to 78. That was a lifetime back then. When you had Elton John putting out two albums a year and that kind of thing, time could pass you by, but people hung with Springsteen. We saw that tour, though you said it was actually before the album came out.
The the 77 show was, but the 78 show might have been after the album came out.
Oh, I saw the 78 show.
Yeah, okay. So it was right at it was the tour of that album. 77 was one of it had some of the songs from there, but it wasn't but Darkness hadn't come out yet.
One of the songs from there was recorded in Phoenix at Veterans Memorial Coliseum, and it's one of his videos. And I forget which song that is. It's probably Badlands or Prove It All Night.
And Rosalita was also recorded there.
Okay, yeah, maybe. There's a great video, and what it does is, you and I can get our memories embellished, right? And then
Mhm.
we see a video like that, and we say, "No, it was great." We got Exhibit A, proof and evidence.
I love
I
when he
love
goes
this.
up onto the he runs and jumps up onto the piano while he's playing
Uh,
on Rosalita.
it was the first time I ever saw him. It was a great show. My favorites though are maybe not, the singles. The singles I really like. I like Badlands and I especially like Prove It All Night. But I'm going to go with some different songs on here because one thing about this album is there's two songs on here. One is Streets of Fire and the other is Adam Raised a Cain, which are absolutely that howling lower voice that you were talking about. You mentioned on Born to Run that he was singing in a different register, like his voice had changed. I think it's part of just physical maturation, right?
Yeah.
And you think of those howls during Jungle Land when he just howls with emotion. On here, man, he's got some vocals that are just ripping his vocal cords out. So I'm going to pick one of those songs, and it's Adam Raised a Cain. Gotta love that song. And he just, if you were a vocal coach, you would say, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't sing that way." And they would be right because if you listen to Springsteen today, he's still great, but he can't do that anymore, right? He's lost that ability to howl. He probably sang his voice out. And the other one is my favorite song, I think, from the album is Racing in the Street.
Mm. Good.
Beautiful piano by Roy Bittan, nice narrative. Sometimes just a sucker for a good story, and this idea about some guys they give up living bit by bit. Other guys come home, wash up, and go racing in the street. It's just the great lyrics. But then he talks about the girl that he picked up and how she's got wrinkles around her eyes and cries on her daddy's porch. And yeah, I think musically, I think not only Roy Bittan's piano, but the drummer, Max Weinberg, plays really good drums for a ballad. Of course, you'd have to include the bass, the drums, and the piano, which is your classic kind of rhythm section before the electric guitar really came in. It's great. So, Racing in the Street, Adam raised a cane, beautifully sung, beautifully produced. I do like this album a lot.
All right, great album. All right, our first overlap by number six, Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous. I totally
Okay.
agree with you. Um, it is, and again, I don't care if some of it was uh, dubbed in. I think it's real. I hope it's real when uh, uh, Phil
Linnet?
Lynott when Phil Lynott says, "How many of you uh, got some Irish in you?" And there's a lot of applause. And then he says, "And how many of you ladies would like to have a little more Irish in you?"
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I should pronounce their name the way they pronounced it and the way people in Ireland pronounce it. And that is, it's the pun, Tin Lizzy, because a TH in Irish is pronounced huh. So it's, like the old car, Tin Lizzy. And I didn't realize that until I saw, oh, what was the movie with, oh, I can't think of his name now. I almost got it. He's the Irish singer that was the guitarist in the Commitments, and then uh, anyway,
You got Glenn Hansard?
yeah, Glenn Hansard, yeah, Glenn Hansard, and they're talking about Tin Lizzy, and I said, oh
Okay.
yeah, I get it now, Tin Lizzy, and I for a long time I didn't get that. So my two favorite songs, I mean, it would be easy for me to choose the two songs from Jailbreak, which are, I mean, that I like so much, Jailbreak and The Boys Are Back in Town. But I'm going to go with The Boys Are Back in Town. But the other one is Southbound, which was from the it was the black cover album originally. I can't think. It was after uh, Johnny the
Oh,
Thought.
Bad
Uh,
Reputation or
yeah, bad reputation, and Southbound is from that. Um, so got Southbound, and of course, The Boys Are Back in Town, which is the probably the greatest song they did. There would have been a song that I might have chosen if it had been on there, and that is Emerald, but I don't think it was on there. There was, let's see.
I don't think so.
No, I mean, you mentioned it being like a greatest hits, and I totally agree with you. But there are a couple of my favorite Tin Lizzy songs
Oh,
that,
Emerald is on there. It's the second track.
yeah, okay, it wasn't Emerald then. What was it? Let's see.
I used to like Dancing in the Moonlight a lot.
Oh yeah, that's another one. That's also from the Bad Reputation. It's very Van Morrison inspired. But anyway, so Southbound and The Boys Are Back in Town.
Southbound is a great pick. That'd be one of my top maybe four songs from the album. I also like Jailbreak. I like Johnny the Fox meets Johnny the
Jimmy the
Weed.
Weed. Yeah, yeah. Johnny the
That's
Fox.
well done. Yeah, it's just a great album. All right. where am I at with my number? Man, we're all the way down to number five. So this is a guy that keeps showing up on my lists. I guess I guess I'm a bigger fan. I have found that I'm a I've discovered that I'm really a super fan of two musical acts that I knew I liked, but I didn't know how much I liked them. One is Roxy Music, who keeps showing up on my list. The other is Neil Young. So a lot of people dismiss the album Comes a Time because it's kind of a return to the Harvest kind of folky thing. It's really a great album. I mean, it's just one great song after another great song, and it has such strong melodies on it. That's the thing that gets me. When you got songs like Comes a Time, the title track, Look Out for My Love, Lot of Love, these melodies are so infectious. And it's really well produced, and Nicolette Larson's background vocals are really good on it. Yeah, it's just kind of Harvest Part Two, a little rougher, not as cleanly produced. But yeah, I like it. It's so my song selections on here. It was a little bit tough to pick. But I'm going to go with the title track, Comes a Time, and a song on the second side, which has really grown on me over the years, and that's Human Highway. Really good track. So Neil Young Comes a Time. I'm a defender of this album. I think I mean, most people like it, but not everybody loves it. I love it. That's it. Neil Young.
And can we pause for just a moment? I need to let my dog out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I tried to get her to go out just before we started, but she was dead to the world. And then now I heard her moaning at the back door. And if I don't pay attention to her, then
Do you see my
she'll.
latest video short, by the way? Oh, I interrupted you, sorry.
No, no, I haven't. What's
I called it very cleverly short on wearing shorts.
ah?
And it's you coming back in shorts. So you said never in public. Well, I made sure that you would be. Anyway, you'll have to watch it. It's funny. Anyway, it's your
Yeah. Oh,
turn.
all right. My number five, a mutual favorite of ours, Todd Rundgren, and a not a really complex album. It kind of Todd returning to the simplicity of his great pop rock stuff, The Hermit of Mink Hollow. Um, and it's got a real variety of stuff. It's typical Todd, where he basically plays every instrument and does all the vocals. And there's a lot of really great songs on there, but there are two that really stand out for me. One is his single, Can We Still Be Friends, which Robert Palmer did a bit later, but I still like Todd's version the best. And the other is a great rocker, Determination.
Mm.
Um, and it's like there, those two songs just sum up what's best about the album for me. Nothing special about it except that it's just really good Todd Rundgren, and that's why it's on this list.
Excellent. Uh, okay, I'm down to number four. Yeah, you went through that quickly. Number four for me. Well, I've had two live albums on here so far, so that's enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nope. I got to go with my favorite live album of 1978 and one of my all-time favorite live albums. But you can't guess.
One of your all-time favorite live albums.
Yeah.
You got me.
So it's Little Feat, Waiting for
Oh,
Columbus,
okay. All right.
and one of the hottest live bands for sure. I'm a big fan of Little Feat, and this is my favorite album by them. Unfortunately, Lil George would die the next year, but it's great. Waiting for Columbus, it's a double, and of course they brought on the horn section Tower of Power to help them out on this album. It's recorded from different venues. It just cooks all the way through. One of the tightest bands. We were talking about Talking Heads, Fleetwood Mac, Black Uhuru, bands that are really tight, but Little Feat's right up there. They're really in the pocket. And so I'm going to go with the song "Oh Atlanta," which is I think that's from Feats Don't Fail Me Now. A really good version on here. And then Tower of Power comes on for some of the later songs. I'm going to go with Spanish Moon, which I first heard by Robert Palmer. And I love Robert Palmer's version. But this live version from Waiting for Columbus is smokes. Yeah, sparks come out of your speakers on this one. Such a groove. Love Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus. So that probably surprised you a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it really did. It really did. I didn't know you were that big of a fan of Little Feat either. Um, okay, great album. I totally agree. Okay, next, my number four, and I gotta think you're going to have this at four or higher, um, because you're a bigger fan than I am, and I am a fan. But that is Patti Smith, Easter, and it's a after Horses. Horses is still my favorite Patti Smith album. Um, but this is up there as one of my favorite albums by Patti Smith. Um, and it's it's Patti Smith doing being a little bit less abrasive. I mean, she certainly didn't sell out, but there's a clarity, a smoothness, it's less punky. Um, did did Jimmy Iovine produce this?
Yes, that's correct.
That's what I thought. Okay, well that might have a lot to do with it, but of course the most famous song from it is uh, her version of "Because the Night," which was a song that Springsteen was in I guess in the same studio recording at the time that she was doing this, and and he liked her and he thought she was cool, and he said, "Why don't you try to do something with this song? I've got a chorus here, but I just can't seem to finish this song." And so he gave her the song that was to become Because of the Night. And she did such a great version of it that when he started doing it on that tour, he started doing almost an identical version of it.
Right.
And so everybody thinks of that as being a Patti Smith song. And essentially, it is a Patti Smith song. It's a Patti Smith, Bruce Springsteen song. And Still one of my favorite songs by Patti Smith. Another one is more of a deep cut of this from this album, and that is Ghost Dance. And it's a very powerful, almost well, the Ghost Dance was a Native American dance,
Right.
and it has a Native American feel to it. And it really is Patti Smith in excellent poet mode. It's her not I wouldn't call it a ballad, but it's also not a rocker. It's an atmospheric song, but it's also has a haunting melody to it that I really, really like. And every time, whenever I listen to this album, I always put Ghost Dance on repeat because I like to hear it again.
Wow. Yeah, great picks. Yeah, great sounding album. So you've predicted I'll have it on my list. We'll see. Um, but first of all, number three, man, I cannot deny the greatness of this album. a band that could have easily packed it in, but they waited to pack it in. They waited till the 80s to pack it in. Well, they never fully packed it in. I'm talking about the Rolling Stones, and you know I'm a big Rolling Stones fan. But they weren't ready to roll over and die yet, so they did Some Girls in 79 and then pretty good effort with Tattoo You coming next. And some people would say Emotional Rescue was a good album. And, eventually they would get around to recording albums like, I forgot the name of it, but the one with the Art Deco cover in 86 or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
they would start to get some missteps. And then they would do Voodoo Lounge, which is a pretty good album. But it doesn't quite have the magic of the old Stones. It feels like they're trying to recreate an old sound. And I saw them in 97. They were great. But I think Some Girls, and most critics and fans agree with me, Some Girls was, I would say, they have not put out an album this good since. I think this was their last great album. They did some good albums, but this was the last truly great one.
I
Some
agree with you.
Girls is a perfect album all the way through. Uh, Really hard to pick tracks from here because there just really aren't that many standout tracks. I mean, I love songs like Shattered, which is very punky new wave.
Sex and sex and
Uh,
sex and sex.
yeah, I love When the Whip Comes Down. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. Keith Richards has a turn on here. It's really good. So I'm going to go with a couple safe choices, but they're undeniable. So one is Miss You, disco. But it has Sugar Harris on harmonica and Mel Collins on sax, and it's got that great beat. Wyman and Watts are just really great, great vocal. Say, I'm going to go with Miss You. It's easy to disregard or dismiss that song because of how much it got played, but whenever you listen to it, sounds great. And then what I think objectively is the best song on the album is Beast of Burden, which
Mm-hmm.
just has a great melody, great vocal. But I also like the title track, Some Girls. Now, we were talking about this is a politically incorrect year. I started off talking about Lou Reed's I Want to Be Black. Um, Some Girls, that upset a few people. Few people, yeah. And black girls just want to get, you know,
All night.
yeah, has it aged well? People have forgiven the Stones. I don't know why they don't forgive other people. We pick and choose in the court of public opinion who we give a pass to and who we don't. So for some reason, we gave a pass to the Stones. But I love it. I love this whole album. I don't think there's a weak track on it, but I'm going to go with Miss You and Beast of Burden. Oh, by the
Great.
way, the Glimmer Twins produced it, Keith and Mick, and it's really a great sounding album.
It is. Okay. Earlier, I talked about my favorite album by this artist. This was a bigger selling one. I don't think it's as good. It's a little bit more. Um, I don't think the songwriting is quite as excellent on it. That's Warren Zevon's "Excitable Boy." I mean, it's funny, and that's the thing. It's not as serious. It's not. It's Warren Zevon developing a voice as a chaos causer, a throwing a hand grenade into things. Less songs that could be covered by Jackson Brown or Linda Ronstadt. You know, they're more distinctive. They're the songs that made Warren Zevon famous. They're also, I think, it's during the time when Zevon was drinking at his most heavily. And if you, Wendell, what did you do? He knocked something over. Um, that's a cat. Um, if you look at the cover and compare Warren Zevon's face to the previous album, Warren Zevon, you'll see it's all pudgy and not like he was getting fat, but like he was bloated from a lot of drinking.
Uh,
Um, and the drinking, kind of made him wild. But the wildness is good. The song "Excitable Boy" is a great one, but it's not the one I would choose. I chose two songs that I like a little bit more. That one of them is "Werewolves of London," um, and I like saw a werewolf drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's, and his hair was perfect. Um, And then the other one is one of my favorite Warren Zevon songs, and that is Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Um, you know, uh, Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this. It's about just getting in trouble in another country, which, it, did that ever happen to Warren Zevon? No, I think he's just creating a story here. But this is the album that made people sit up and take notice of Warren Zevon. From the first album, it was a more, hey, the people who like California rock, with a bit of an edge to it. But this is the album that got him on the charts. So Excitable Boy and the two songs are Werewolves of London and
Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Liars, Guns, and Money. Yeah.
Great picks. I love that album. And it sounds great. It's well produced. Yeah, a little bit more macabre, I would say. And so I always say that you're the English guy. I always say macabre. Is that correct?
Yeah, macabre. Um,
I hear
and
people
yes,
say macabre all the time.
yeah, no, macabre. It's a French word, and French words you never say the last vowel at the end. They're just like they just exist, but you don't do anything with them. Um, you know, uh, so
Yeah,
yeah,
between Excitable Boy and Roland the Thompson.
Headless Thompson Gunner. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, these are really talking
Dark
about,
humor,
blowing
black
people's
humor.
heads off and building cages out of bones. And yeah, it's a pretty macabre album. And there you got Jennifer Warrens and Linda Ronstadt going, do, bop, bop. Like it's an old 50s rocker. It's hilarious. I love that album. Yeah, good picks. All right, number two. Now, see, I was talking about politically incorrect songs. It's something about 78. You were talking about Phil Lynott going, any of the ladies here want more Irish in them? And Lou Reed singing I Want to Be Black. And he's singing lyrics I won't even repeat on this channel. And you had, I mean, you've got Warren Zevon talking about taking little Susie to the junior prom and then taking her home and killing her. And, you know, and here's another one. Number two, Patti Smith's Easter. So rock and roll N word has been
Yes.
deleted from Spotify. And I
Has it
don't
been?
get it. I don't get
I
it.
I love that song. I was going to choose it, but I didn't.
People think we have free speech, but she came out on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame show, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and she comes out and she says, "My my mother said, 'Are you going to do my favorite song?'" And it's like, "Well, what's your favorite song, Mom?" My favorite song is Rock and Roll N-Words. So she's like, well, who's to turn down their mother? And she gets on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and she does that song. And she tore the roof off the place because it's such a staid environment now. I mean, I saw Iggy Pop doing one of his punk songs, walking into the crowd, and they're all in tuxes at these tables with tablecloths and china. And it just looks so wrong, you know? Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has become very staid, but she wasn't going to let that happen. Do you know you cannot find that performance anywhere on YouTube or Vimeo? It has
Really?
been wiped clean of existence. So I like wokeness, I like political correctness, but you know what? You've gone a little too far. So I'd like to be able to watch that performance again, but her whole point in that song was to say the word so often that it didn't mean anything. She was trying to render it meaningless. So people don't get it. They're just hung up on the word. But uh, I love this album. It's my favorite Patti Smith. Oh, that's sacrilege. Should be Horses, right? Horses should be her best album, and maybe objectively it is, but I can't say enough about this album because it's not safe. I think she got to be a better lyricist all the time. And she always used a different producer. She used John Cale, then she used Jack Douglas, then she used Jimmy Iovine, then she used Todd Rundgren. And then when she came back, she used Fred Smith. She always used a different producer. So every album has a different producer. Well, Jimmy Iovine, who really blew it with a couple people like Graham Parker, he did a Graham Parker album that bombed and sounds terrible. What was that album called again? Anyway, Graham Parker said he was doing too many drugs. But boy, did he hit it on this one. It has that Tom Petty sheen with the big drums. This album
That's
sounds like Damned Torpedoes.
that's a good
It's
way of yeah.
it's got that clean sound and it really emphasizes the band. So people like Lenny Kaye are much more prominent on this album than I think on other albums. Uh, I love it, but the lyrics are not safe. She sings about the most unusual things. The transformation of waste. The transformation of waste is perhaps man's oldest preoccupation. She's singing about shit and trying to recycle shit and how man needs to evolve. I'm an artist. I'm an American artist and I have no guilt. I trust my guitar. I'm getting a low battery warning. There we go. Got the cord was not plugged in. And I think the lyrics are edgy. We were talking about the rock and roll song, rock and roll N word. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't F much with the past, but I F plenty with the future. This is not a safe album. She's really pushing the envelope on the lyrics, but it has that clean sheen that Jimmy Iovine does. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but that's pretty good though, huh? Clean sheen.
Mean Sheen, Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah. It's um it's a great sounding album. Love the drums. Oh my God. Nice loud drums. So yeah, it's a perfect marriage of lyrics, songwriting, production. Everything comes together on here. So, what are my song selections? Okay, this is the one I'm picking technically three tracks. I'm going with Privilege, Set Me Free. That's in parentheses, Set Me Free. And then two tracks that are really one song 25th Floor, High on Rebellion.
Right.
These are both rockers and I love them. Your turn.
Okay. Oh, a
Right
little
when it,
aside. Just yesterday, when I was going through Google News, they always show me rock and roll stuff from Louder, because I click on it a lot. And there was a thing, and it was funny. It's funny how sometimes these young kids, they just don't understand what it's all about. I mean, even if they're rock and roll writers, the writer was talking about how totally blown away he was by that in a recent Patti Smith concert, she did My Generation. I said, "Whoa, she did this classic rock song." Hey, she did My Generation back when Horses came out. It's a bonus track, the live one. Why
right.
don't you? Yeah, so um, I think it's funny because they were making a big deal out of it as if she had never done this before, and it's kind of I always think of her doing My Generation. Um, anyway, okay, so my number two is one of my favorite artists. Obviously, my next two are two of my favorite artists. Bruce Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town. And I cannot complain at all about your choices, but fortunately, because it's such a great album, it deserves as many songs as we can get. And I put the last two songs, the single, Prove It All Night, which, was the first time Springsteen since Born to Run had this was a song that a lot of people really liked, sold really well. Oh, and by the way, the album, I was going to say it when you were talking about it, but I figured I'd wait. This is the uh it's the dark side of Born to Run. Okay. I mean, it's like they're two sides of the same coin. Um, Born to Run is, with a few exceptions, a very uplifting, powerful, um, you know, song, romantic, celebrating the streets of New York. It's it's wild-eyed romanticism. And then Darkness on the Edge of Town is gritty realism. And it's interesting because you mentioned the uh, uh, I'm sorry, my headache's starting to get the best of me. Racing in the Streets.
Yeah.
Racing in the Streets is sort of a dark side of what could have happened to Mary and Bruce on Thunder Road. You know, um, it's like Thunder Road romanticizes this whole thing, and then Racing in the Streets is, it's great. I mean, the songs are fantastic, but they're not very positive. Okay,
Right.
Prove It All Night has a desperation to it that takes the desperation of Born to Run to the nth degree. But the song that so I would choose that one, Prove It All Night. But the other one is the title track, Darkness on the Edge of Town, which is a really bleak song. Um, and it's almost, if it had been recorded acoustically, it could have been on Nebraska a couple of years later. And that is Darkness on the Edge of Town. Um, I lost my money and I lost my wife. Those things don't seem to matter to me now. Um, Tonight I'll be on that hill because I can't stop. I'll be on that hill with everything I got, with lives on the line. Dreams are found and lost. I'll be there on time because I've paid the cost for wanting things that can only be found in the darkness on the edge of town. And you talked about his vocals. It's almost a howl of pain on this song, and it's a great closing track. Unlike the romanticism of the closing track from Born to Run, Jungle Land, this is bleak, bleak, negative song. And really think that Springsteen was going through some pain at the time. He was angry that he couldn't, um, it took him a long time to be able to get this album released, and it just uh, it's got an
Yeah.
attitude. It's an album with an attitude, but it's a great Springsteen album. So, Darkness on the Edge of Town with Prove It All Night and Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Yeah, I just thought of an analogy because I really like your assessment. And the first part of this analogy I stole. It's not original, but it's like it's like the difference between West Side Story and Mean Streets.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've heard that people say Jungle Land evokes West Side Story a little bit.
Hmm.
So yeah, West Side Story is about violence and street gangs, but it's romantic and it has a love affair in it. So yeah, that was a great essay. Number one, you mentioned in the last video we recorded that sometimes we surprise ourselves going through these lists. I said, is this really my favorite album of the year? And it is. I can't help it. It's the Talking Heads, more songs about buildings and food. I think it's always been my favorite Talking Heads album. It's addictive. I love David Byrne's guitar on it. I love the songwriting. There are other albums that sound as good. Stop making Speaking in tongues sounds really good. Remain in Light sounds really good. Great playing. I don't know. The songs on here are just great. I love every single song. I don't know if you expected this to be as high as it is on my list. Maybe it's like last year when you had Rumors as your number one, but I got more songs about buildings and food. Great neurotic David Byrne songs, and it's hard to pick a favorite though. One is a clear favorite of mine though, and that's Artists Only
Oh yeah.
because I like the song and the fact that this was my wife's name was irrelevant because I liked the song before that, uh, or a sound alike to my wife's name. Judy's in the bedroom inventing situations. Now it's about a television writer, but I always took it to mean something else, which is we don't have enough problems. We don't have enough problems. So let's get this neurotic coupleship going and let's whip up some new problems. Judy's in the bedroom inventing situations. Boy, is that my experience. I'll tell you. I don't mean to be too candid, but I swear to God, you cannot, you cannot marginalize someone's feelings. But sometimes in your head, you're going, you know, I don't think this is really a substantial problem. I think we could dismiss this. Uh, but that's two people with different ideas. And Byrne he always, he always gets to the heart of that. Artists Only. It's a great song about a couple that's having relationship problems. So they begin to write a TV show about couples having relationship problems. And it solves their relationship problems. Byrne is just so genius. And the other one, because I've seen it done live in concert, such a great song. I think I'm persuaded by the live performances I've seen of it. I've seen it done twice. It's Found a Job. And it has just that great outro where Jerry Harrison is playing the melody and Byrne the rhythm guitar, and they have this contrapuntal thing. Is that the right word? And it's
Yeah.
so great. But yeah, I could go with so many other different songs. Obviously, it has Take Me to the River. Um, it has I don't know, name any track from it. Big Country. These are all great, great, great songs, and I love this album. Number one, more songs. I mean, just the title. More songs about buildings and food. Who writes a title like that? David Byrne.
Absolutely. Great, great choice. Um, if there weren't so many albums that I love, it would have been on my top 10 list too. But there are certain artists that they make a debut album and you think, oh my God, this is amazing. They can't beat this. And then the second album, which often is a difficult album for artists to make, blows the first one out of the water. And that's the case with Elvis Costello's This Year's Model. God, Gene, I can't. It's so hard to choose two songs from um this album. It's like this is Elvis at his peak. I hate to say that because he's made so many dozens of albums, and I love all of them, or most of them. But this album, from beginning to end, is just a great post-punk or punk rock album. And so there are some, like I look at the titles and I think, well, Okay, you got to put the beat on there. Yeah, well, but you got to put Pump It Up on there. Yeah, well, um, you got to put radio on there. Yeah, well, and I had to skip over all of those because of the two songs that I like the most. One of them is a song that he recorded during this album, but it was not originally on the album, and then it was put on, and that is "I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea." And I just, the 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 sound of that, the well, by the way, probably this album more than any other Elvis Costello album features the brilliance of Steve Naive, or his real name, believe it or not, Morris Worm.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and I love the how Costello talked about how he met Steve. He said that Steve came in to do some auditioning, and they said, "Okay, there's a keyboard player here. Where is he?" And he was drunk underneath the piano. Um,
Oh,
he he was asleep. He had been drinking and had fallen asleep underneath the piano. Um, and we were fortunate enough to see that Elvis with Steve Naive, just the two of them together at the Guinness Flay. But remember that?
yeah. I'd
Yeah.
forgotten. I remember now.
But yeah, he Cindy one time pointed out as we were listening to an anthology of Elvis Costello, a guy who anthologizes really well, by the way. I mean, he's got several greatest hits, or not just best ofs that are amazing. But we were listening, and she said, you know, Elvis Costello would not sound the same if it weren't for keyboards. And, it can be piano, like on Armed Forces, it can be organ, but usually it's organ on these early albums. But yeah, but Steve really brought that stuff out. So this, I don't want to go to Chelsea. They call her Natasha, but she looks like Elsie. I don't want to go to Chelsea. Um, it, Elvis was a great wordsmith, and he was at his best on these songs. And then the other one, I just, you don't hear about it that much, but it's probably my favorite song from the album, and it's Lipstick Vogue, where he says, "Not just another mouth lost in the lipstick vogue." And I love the line, and I'd like to get a T-shirt with it. Sometimes I almost feel just like a human being,
Yeah.
and so. Uh, it's just a really really powerful song, and every song on here, it's one of those. There's a reason why this is my number one. There's just I can't think of a bad song on there. Eh, there's some B-sides that are great, but I think was it Big Tears, where he says, uh, "You wouldn't even like me if you'd ever stop to think. You wouldn't even like me if you hadn't had a drink." And I mean, it's just like Elvis was at his peak as a lyricist at this point. He was the punk Bob Dylan. I'll say that right there. Elvis Costello, the punk Bob Dylan for a while. Okay, so this year's model with the
Yeah.
the songs "I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea" and "Lipstick Vogue."
Yeah, great pick. And I knew you were going to have this album. I thought you were going to pick Radio Radio as one of your songs.
I know that's such a great song too.
Um, and I said to myself, I know Jim loves this album. I love Elvis Costello. I got to get this on here. And I knew this was where you and I were going to differ. I don't know what it is about this album. I love about half of it, but it's sandwiched in between My Aim is True and Armed Forces, and I prefer those two albums. And I think I'm out of step because the critics love this album. It's 5 stars, almost everybody. There's something about the production. Nick Lowe's production is different, on this album, and it's very dense. And I don't know, it's just hard for me to pick out the lyrics, and there's something about the sound of the album I don't like as well. But yeah, great songs. I love Pump It Up and Lipstick Vogue. I don't want to go to Chelsea. But yeah, it didn't make my top 10. And guess what? It's not going to be in my honorable mentions either. And it's your number one. Shocking. Huh? But I like the album. Don't get me wrong. I like the album.
You know,
But I just like the, huh?
you mentioned radio. Um, you either shut up or get cut out. They don't want to hear about it. It's only inches on the reel to reel. And the radio is in the hands of such a lot of fools trying to anesthetize the way that you feel.
Yeah. To kind of make my point of what I'm talking about is when I listen to My Aim is True, I don't need a lyric sheet. But if I'm listening to this album, I have to click on the little button on Spotify to bring up the lyrics because they're just harder to understand. But no, it's a great album. But I knew we were going to differ on that one. And I think I'm out of step. But let me tell you what my honorable mentions are. And I really enjoyed your list. We didn't really concur that much this year.
No, we
It's
didn't.
interesting. But I think we will a little bit more on the honorable mentions. I only have five this year. So let me mention the two that you mentioned already that I totally agree with you. And certainly the first one could have been in my top 10. Warren Zevon, Excitable Boy. Love this album. I actually think it's a perfect album. Songs like Nighttime in the Switching Yard. I love that song. Um, not a not a bad song on the album, really excellently produced and worthy of top 10. Just missed, probably like number 11. And the other one that I totally agree with you on is The Jam, All Mod Cons. That is a great album, and it's in my honorable mentions. Is it my favorite Jam album? I kind of like the Sound Effects album, but this would be one of my two favorite Jam albums. Probably tied for my favorite. All right, the other three honorable mentions. Peter Gabriel's second album. I did not have his debut on my 77 top 10 or honorable mentions. I actually prefer the second album, produced by Robert Fripp. Little harder to get into, a little less immediate, but I think more rewarding. And yeah, you have some really good songs on here. Um, the opener On the Air is not my favorite, but then you get into DIY and White Shadow and Indigo and Exposure and Perspective and Home Sweet Home. These are really good songs. So yeah, Peter Gabriel 2, also known as Scratch. I do like that album. I think Peter Gabriel's first three albums, I like them in the order they were released. Two was better than one, and three was better than two. All right. Then I also have a debut album that I really like, Dire Straits,
Hmm. Hmm.
self-titled, with Sultans of Swing on it. It's a great sounding album. It's kind of like we were talking about Bob Dylan's Desire, has that kind of Western feel. And I just, songs on here like Six Blade Knife and Water of Love. It's got that whole Western thing. This from an English band. And what's my favorite Dire Straits album? Sometimes I think it's this one. Sometimes I think it's the debut. It's just is a great sounding album, good collection of songs. And yeah, if you fast forward to their last album, On Every Street, which you and I have discussed as a good album to put you to sleep, they just really came out of the gate strong. And then my last honorable mention, this one will surprise you, Professor. It will surprise you. I'll bet, well, it'll surprise you a little bit. But I'm going to go with dub poetry. Do you know who the great dub poet is? That
Who
would
was
be
that?
Linton Kwesi
Wesley
Johnson.
John. Mhm.
And his debut album, Dread, Beat, and Blood, or as he would put it, Dread, Beat, and Blood. I find this infectious, this kind of half spoken, half sung uh, English, London, Jamaican patois, kind of rapping poetry set against this reggae dub music, all politically inclined lyrics. It's great. Linton Kwesi Johnson, Dread Beaten Blood, he's still alive. He made about 3 albums and that was it. And then he decided he was done. So a very small discography. And I love all of his albums. So there you go. Let me repeat those. In the order I got them on my list, not in the order I set them. Peter Gabriel, 2, The Jam, All Mod Cons, Linton Kwesi Johnson, Dread Beaten Blood, Dire Straits, and Warren Zevon, Excitable Boy.
Great albums. At this point, I think we should take a moment of silence for the great Jimmy Cliff, who just
Yeah.
passed away. You know, I was really shocked to see that he had died. The harder they come, wonderful world, beautiful people. He was a one of the reggae greats. Okay, well, my honorable mentions. This first one was actually recorded in 1976, but the album did not come out or the accompanying film until 1978. So, you know, earlier I put together a group of my favorite songs, I mean, favorite albums from various years. And I said, hey, it was made in 76. I'm going to put it there. But for the purposes of this, it is one of my favorite concert albums. I'm saying concert albums rather than live albums because there's so many people. It's an ensemble focused around one of my favorite bands, and that is the band. And that was The Last Waltz. They got tired of touring. They got tired of the cocaine, or at least Robbie Robertson did. And Robbie Robertson was the guy in charge for a while here. And poor Richard Manuel um, was kind of really, really messed up at this point. And if you watch the movie and you see the the um, the interviews going on, there's it's just sad to see how messed up some of them are. And Martin Scorsese, who made the movie, he was really messed up too. Okay. Um, so one of the reasons that I chose this is because it has, for me, my absolute favorite version of my absolute favorite song by my absolute favorite artist. You know who that is, Gene? You know what that is?
You talking Dylan?
No, no, it's not Dylan. It's Caravan by Van Morrison.
Oh, yeah, yeah, of
And
course.
I mean, if you had to ask me what is your favorite song of all time, it's Caravan by Van Morrison, the version from The Last Waltz. And interesting because on the Essential Van Morrison, where Van put together the um, the songs that he wanted on there, he put that version on there.
Right.
So
I was
you
thinking
know,
songs by the, I wasn't thinking of guest artists. So,
right. I mean, there's so many guest artists on there. Um, and so it's very, very powerful. Um, and there's so many great band songs here, and I have to choose a song by the band, but I'm going to go with an unusual choice. And that's one of my favorite songs by the band, but it's not like from the early stuff, it's from later stuff, and that is Acadian Driftwood.
oh,
Um, it's a beautiful, beautiful song about the Acadians, the Canadians the Cajuns. That's what Cajun means, Canadians who um, left Canada and migrated south until they ultimately got down to New Orleans and in Louisiana. And it has several of the several of the band singing on it. As a matter of fact, I think Richard Manuel, Rick Danko, and I think also, if I recall, um, yeah,
Leave on.
yeah, Levon also sings on it. The only one that doesn't is Robbie Robertson, who wrote the song. But Acadian Driftwood and Caravan is also great because on it, Robbie is as Van kicks his way off the stage, says, "Van the man," and that was apparently uh, Robbie Robertson gave Van two of his nicknames, Van the Man and the Belfast Cowboy.
I thought you were going to pick Ronnie Hawkins and Neil Diamond.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, y- you know,
No, those
uh,
are fine songs, but
well, it's funny because there's a lot of people who are saying, "How the hell did Neil Diamond get on there?" And the reason why is because Robbie Robertson had just produced Neil's latest album, Beautiful Noise. So he said, "Why don't you
uh-huh.
come on, you get on there too?" And I like the song that he does, "Dry Your Eyes." But then I've always liked Neil Diamond, and especially his 60s material or early 70s material. Um,
He
and
sounds just a little bit constipated, though, doesn't he?
yeah, well,
Like he goes, dry, dry
he's
your eye.
he's trying to sound tough because he's with the
Yeah.
band. But dry your eyes. But Neil sounds like that a lot. I mean, but speaking of constipated, think about um, his live album, Hot August Night, and look at the picture of him on there. It looks like he's either passing a big one or holding a big one in front of him. I mean, I can't look at that picture without like, what are you doing, Neil? Uh, um, so, but
We digress.
Okay, so anyway, the last waltz, and I spent a lot of time talking about that. Here's the thing, if I had put it in my top 10, then you would be putting Caravan in there twice. But I noticed that you've been putting together a honorable mentions, so
Yeah, I'm working on it. One
yeah, so
song. I'm just
if
picking a
yeah,
song based on streams or my instincts.
New
So,
Canadian, yeah, or Acadian Driftwood. All right, so
by the way,
next.
real quick, did I tell you a guy wrote me on my channel? He said,
Oh
"Why do
yeah,
you talk so much?" He said, "Why do you talk so much?" You know what I wrote him? I wrote him
what?
back. I said, "Because it's my channel. Be kind or move on." It's a
What
good answer.
which one was that? Which was it one of our
Not our
our
videos, something else. One of
well,
my older videos. He
if
said,
you're
"Why
gonna
do you talk so much?" Well, because it's my channel.
yeah, you're talking about the songs. I mean, they can just go and listen to the songs. They can listen to the playlists if they don't want to hear you talk.
Yeah,
All right.
true.
Next, Rush, Hemispheres. Another
Ah,
great another great Rush album. Rush was really at a peak at this point. I had a Farewell to Kings on the last one, and here is Hemispheres. Another one with a guy's naked butt on the cover, and he's standing on a brain. So make of that what you will. But it's got some really really powerful um, songs on there by Rush, and it just it is what it is. Okay, so let me.
a good
Okay,
album.
Cygnus. Okay, and also the trees. The trees is a good one. Um, Now the next, my absolute favorite female singer since 1980. mid early to mid 1980s, and this is my her debut album, Kate Bush, The Kick Inside. I love Kate Bush. Um, if it weren't for the fact that I was so happily married, I would lust after Kate Bush. Um, I platonically lust after Kate Bush, um, as do so many other people, like Big Boy from the
Outcast.
Outcast, yes, and Prince lusted after her, and David Gilmour, when she was a teenager, lusted after her and got her a recording contract. Um, she's incredibly talented. Some of the songs on the Kick Inside were written when she was a teenager, when she was 15 years old. And it's just amazing. So, I mean, of course, it has Wuthering Heights, which made her huge. Um, but The Kick Inside by Kate Bush. Then I agree with you. Peter Gabriel, too. Better than the first Peter Gabriel album, produced by Robert Fripp. Um, he still hadn't got there yet. Give me a little anecdote about Peter Gabriel and how much, in when Peter Gabriel left Genesis, Genesis was at that point my favorite band. Okay, they were my favorite band, and so um, I uh, I was shocked, depressed when Peter Gabriel quit Genesis, but they continued doing well, with for a while with Phil Collins. But here's the thing: I had a dream that summer of 1975, that Peter Gabriel released a solo album. And I listened to it in my dream.
Oh,
And then in 77, he puts out his first solo album. I go, okay, he did it. It didn't sound like it. And then in 78, he put out his second album. And that didn't sound like it. And I began thinking, all right, it was wishful thinking in my dream. And then he put out the third album, which sounds exactly like the album in my dream.
uh,
He hit he hit the, he got to it. So Peter Gabriel 2, Scratch, is Gabriel getting closer and closer to his vision of the sound that he wanted to make. And he's like 80% there. And so it's a great one. It's a great album. And then another one that we talked about in the Bob Dylan thing is Bob Dylan's Street Legal. And uh, an album that a lot of people ignored for a long time. It's been reevaluated recently. And since I don't have it in my top 10, I won't go into a lot of detail about it. But Changing of the Guards is one of my absolute favorite uh, Dylan songs. And uh, Patti Smith did a wonderful version of it. And so, Bob
uh,
Dylan, it was the last album before he found Jesus and then lost him again.
yeah. Well, when we started, I told you right before we hit record button, I said, I think this is going to be interesting. And that's because I suspected that we would have a little more divergence, a little less convergence than usual. And I think that, in fact, did happen. Um, we had a number of albums not on the other one's list. So in terms of a Venn diagram, we're usually like that. I think we
Mm-hmm.
were a little bit more like this on this one.
I, I agree.
So that was interesting that we finally hit a year. I think of all the years we've done, this may have had the most divergence. All
I
right, so
agree.
we usually go ahead.
I agree with you. That's it completely. And yet, I love the albums that you chose. There were a lot of great albums that year, and I
Uh-huh.
think our subjective choices were a bit different from that year.
Right. I had one, let's see, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Half my list was not on your list. Yeah. So we usually, any final comments before I go through? We usually close with who we've seen in concert.
Yep, just the who we've seen in concerts. I was just looking at that right now.
So, wow, I've hit a lot of these. I've seen the Talking Heads, 2 3/4 time. There's a story behind that. Call it 2.5 times. Um, Patti Smith once, the Rolling Stones once, Little Feat once, Post Lowell George, Neil Young twice, Springsteen 4 times, Lou Reed once, very late in his career. He was hunched over, walked out with a bad back. So I always envy that you saw him younger. I saw Peter Gabriel once on the Us tour, which became the Secret World, it was taped for the Secret World video. And I've seen Warren Zevon twice, so that's it.
I saw UK. You mentioned that. That we saw him at Dooley's. Uh, seen Van Morrison 4 times. Um, and I'm a huge Van Morrison fan, but not huge enough to go across the world to see him. But when he comes, you know, close, I like to go see him. Um, Never did see the Who live. Really disappointed by that, or the Jam, or Thin Lizzy. Saw Todd Rundgren a couple times, including once with Ringo Starr, and another time on the tribute to David Bowie. Um, but again, on his own, this is when I was, and you've already posted this about when I was suspected of wanting to kill Todd. Um, and the same night that Stevie Nicks flirted with me, boy, that would have been a great story to write as a story. Um, Stevie Nicks, by the way, is a great friend of Todd Rundgren's, and she was right down in front of us. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but she was down at the table in front of us, drinking like a freaking fish. I mean, it's like like pictures of whiskey. I don't know. She was whatever she was drinking. It got her really wild. Um, and never saw Patti Smith or Warren Zevon. Seen Springsteen a number of times, including just last year in Phoenix on his return tour. Our friend Ralph and Irma, our friends Ralph and Irma, bought us the tickets and took us to see him, and that was great. And that's a great show, by the way, Gene. If you can, I think it's on the all the live shows that Springsteen has that available online, and that's one of them. Uh, Elvis Costello, seen him a couple times. Uh, First time was at Mesa Amphitheater. Yeah, and then again later in the place where we saw David Bowie, and I can't remember the name of it, but that's when Kaylee got to see him also. Never saw the band live. Seen Rush a couple times. Never saw
Yeah,
Kate Bush. Never saw Kate Bush live. Seen Peter
no one
Gabriel.
has. No
But
American has.
no American has, unless they went to England to see her. Peter Gabriel a couple times, and Bob Dylan once.
So tell me about, you've seen Gabriel twice?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
you
saw.
saw the Up tour. That's right. You
Yeah,
saw the
yeah,
Up.
up.
I
Yeah,
forgot about that.
I
Yeah.
saw us and up. I saw the last the second and third tours from his Sew Us Up tour.
Yeah. Or Growing Up, whatever it was called.
Yeah, but sew us up.
Oh,
Uh,
so up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's his medical thing. Um,
Okay.
the Was Us a little bit better? I think maybe, but Up was great too. And the audience, they were bastards. I mean, he pretty much sold out, but they didn't show up until he was going to be there, and they missed the Blind Boys of Alabama. And when Gabriel came out,
Uh,
he said, "Those of you that waited until I came out, you made a really big mistake." Um, but this is when his daughter was in was a backup singer with him, and she looked almost exactly like Gabriel did in Genesis when he had the long hair. She was wearing black leotard, and but he and she got in a giant hamster ball together and were running around in a giant hamster ball,
yeah.
and and then they were bouncing in it, and it's just, I mean, Gabriel has always been a very distinctive kind of guy that, so um it was a great show. And if he comes out here again, I will go see him. He's one of the few artists that I would
Yeah.
actually pay and put up with the crowds to go see.
And I saw the Blind Boys one time. They opened for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers on their Echo tour, and they're great.
They really were. Yes, they are. And Gabriel was right. The people who didn't come to see them made a really big mistake.
Yeah, they're a American treasure for sure. So, well, I think that's it. Any last comments on what we did today?
We got one more in the 70s to go, and then if you're up to it, we can move into the 80s.
We can do that. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, the 80s we'll have a lot more divergence, I think,
I believe you're right.
because there'll be more choices. Not as insular like 70. 70 didn't really have wasn't that deep of a year, surprisingly. So anyway, thanks for being on the channel and yeah, loving it. And I'll see you next week to record 79. And
Yep.
as we say here, I'll let you say goodbye first.
I'll say, I hope my headache gets better. But
Yeah.
everybody, thank you for watching if you watched. And please comment. I mean, I'm not asking you to suck up, and I'm not asking you to be mean. I just would like to know your opinions on things. I mean,
Yeah.
Gene and I are doing this, and I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, we've had very little response from the viewers. So yeah, and as we say here in Bonita, Mexico, buen dia.